Right now, something massive is moving behind closed doors in American power circles, and if even half of it is true, it could completely rewrite the future of XRP and every single person holding it. Listen carefully. Just days ago, a bombshell claim dropped that sent shockwaves through the entire crypto world. Multiple sources are now saying that former President Donald Trump sat down for a private dinner with Ripple's top executives, Brad Garlinghouse and David Schwartz. And during that meeting, a staggering proposal was put on the table. A deal involving Ripple's massive XRP escrow. And what they allegedly discussed? Transferring a huge chunk of that escrow directly into U.S. Treasury control. This isn't some random tweet from a nobody. This rumor is gaining serious traction, backed by whispers from people close to the negotiations. And the number that's making everyone lose their minds? $22,000 per XRP? Yes, you heard that right, $22,000. If this deal goes through, the math some analysts are showing points to a price that sounds completely insane to most people, but might actually make sense if you understand what's really happening with global finance. But before you dismiss it as pure fantasy, you need to hear the full story. Because what's being leaked right now isn't just another crypto hype cycle. It's potentially one of the biggest wealth transfer moments in modern financial history. How did this even start? It traces back to a high-level dinner meeting that supposedly happened recently. Trump, known for his pro-crypto shift in recent years, reportedly wanted to understand how Ripple's technology could play into America's strategic financial future. Garlinghouse and the Ripple team didn't go empty-handed. They brought data, vision, and apparently a proposal that involves Ripple voluntarily moving 35 to 40% of its locked XRP escrow into Treasury oversight. Now think about what that means. Ripple holds around 40 billion XRP in escrow right now. Moving even a third of that under U.S. government influence changes everything about supply dynamics, regulatory certainty, and institutional confidence. The market reacted instantly when this rumor hit certain circles. XRP saw sudden volume spikes, whales started accumulating quietly, and forums lit up with both excitement and total disbelief. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Some insiders claim this wasn't just casual talk. This was part of a larger strategy discussion where Trump's team is exploring how to use digital assets as strategic reserves, similar to how countries hold gold or oil. And XRP, with its speed and actual real-world usage, keeps coming up in those conversations. Yet nobody has official confirmation. The White House hasn't commented. Ripple has stayed completely silent on the matter, which only makes the rumor burn hotter. What if this is real? What if the escrow move is already in motion behind the scenes? What if the $22,000 valuation isn't crazy talk, but a calculated projection based on trillions in future transaction volume? The answers might shock you. Because if this deal is happening, the implications go far beyond just your portfolio. This could reshape America's position in the new global financial order. And right now, very few people outside the inner circle truly understand what's at stake. Breaking down the alleged deal, hold on. Because what's being described in these leaked discussions goes way deeper than a simple handshake between Trump and Ripple executives. This alleged escrow arrangement targets a massive slice of Ripple's locked supply, somewhere between 35 and 40%. That's roughly 14 to 16 billion XRP being shifted under direct or indirect U.S. Treasury influence. Right now, Ripple maintains strict control over its escrow. Every month, 1 billion XRP unlocks, most gets sold or placed into new contracts, and the rest stays locked. This system was designed to prevent sudden dumps and build long-term trust. But according to the rumor, the proposal flips that model. Instead of gradual release, a huge portion would move into a new structure managed with government oversight. The goal? Create unbreakable regulatory clarity while positioning XRP as a strategic national asset. Now here's the part that's making holders sit up straight. If even 35% of that escrow gets tied to Treasury strategy, it dramatically reduces circulating supply fears. Institutions hate uncertainty. Remove that fear, and the door swings wide open for banks, payment giants, and sovereign funds to pile in. The dinner meeting supposedly lasted over 2 hours. Trump, Garlinghouse, and David Schwartz, Ripple's CTO, went through technical details, adoption numbers, and how XRP already settles billions in real transactions daily across borders. Sources close to the conversation say Trump was particularly interested in XRP's role in reducing America's dependence on SWIFT and traditional banking rails. He reportedly saw it as a tool to maintain dollar dominance in a world rushing toward digital currencies. But power moves like this never come without strings. The proposal allegedly includes performance-based releases. Certain milestones in adoption, volume, or regulatory wins would trigger controlled unlocks. This creates a built-in incentive system that rewards actual utility instead of pure speculation. Market reaction was immediate once the whispers spread. XRP climbed sharply in Asian trading hours. On-chain data showed large wallets increasing positions. Sentiment across major communities shifted from cautious to outright bullish in a single day. Still, official silence remains deafening. Ripple has made no public statement. The Trump team hasn't confirmed or denied. That vacuum is exactly why the rumor is spreading like wildfire. Because in crypto, silence often speaks louder than press releases. Let's be clear about one thing. This wouldn't be Ripple simply handing over coins for free. The structure being discussed appears to involve a long-term partnership where XRP becomes part of America's broader digital asset reserve strategy. Think gold, think oil, think strategic Bitcoin reserve talks, but with actual daily utility baked in. Critics are already calling it lobbying at the highest level. Supporters see it as smart alignment between private innovation and national interest. Either way, the implications for price discovery are enormous. Because when governments get involved with supply mechanics, the old rules of valuation get rewritten overnight. And if this escrow move is truly in play, the $22,000 number that sounded impossible yesterday might start looking like a conservative estimate tomorrow. But before we dive into exactly where that jaw-dropping valuation comes from, there's something you need to understand about the math behind it. The $22,000 valuation. Where it comes from. Stop for a second. Because the number $22,000 per XRP didn't come from some random Twitter thread or late-night meme coin hype. It came from a serious, data-heavy valuation study that's been quietly circulating among serious analysts for months. And once you see the actual math behind it, the whole rumor starts looking a lot less crazy. The source is Valhill Capital, a research firm known for deep-dive crypto models. Two analysts there, Jimmy Valley and Molly Elmore, put together a comprehensive white paper that runs 6 separate valuation scenarios for XRP. The wildest one lands right at $22,000, but here's what most people miss. That figure isn't based on wishful thinking or to-the-moon slogans. It's built on real-world assumptions about global payment volumes, token velocity, and what happens when XRP actually becomes the bridge asset for trillions in daily cross-border flows. Let's break it down without the fluff. Right now, the total addressable market for cross-border payments sits around $150 trillion annually. SWIFT and traditional rails are slow, expensive, and still dominate. Ripple's on-demand liquidity already proves XRP can settle those payments in seconds for pennies. If even 10% of that market shifts to XRP-powered rails, the daily transaction volume explodes. Valley and Elmore ran the numbers assuming different adoption curves. In their base case, XRP handles roughly $3 trillion in annual settled value. Their aggressive case? Closer to $15 trillion. Now multiply that by velocity. How many times each XRP changes hands per year to support that volume? In low-velocity models, you need a much higher price per token to move the same dollar value. In high-velocity models, the price can be lower. The $22,000 projection comes from a very specific combination. High global adoption paired with relatively low velocity because institutions and central banks would be holding larger reserves for liquidity rather than flipping coins daily. That creates massive price pressure on the remaining circulating supply. Remember the escrow angle we talked about? If 35 to 40% of the locked XRP moves under Treasury oversight, the effective liquid supply shrinks even further. Suddenly the math gets exponential. Take the total supply, roughly 55 billion XRP ever created. Subtract what's burned over time, subtract what stays locked long-term, and you're left with maybe 20 to 25 billion truly circulating in the high adoption scenario. Now divide $15 trillion in annual settled value by that supply, factor in velocity around 10 to 15 turns per year, and the equilibrium price starts climbing into the thousands. The Valhill team didn't stop at one model. They stress-tested everything. Regulatory approval speed, competition from CBDCs, even black swan events. The $22,000 number sits at the extreme bullish end, but their conservative models still show $3,500 and above under moderate adoption. That range is what's making waves right now, because even if the deal only delivers half of what's rumored, we're still talking life-changing multiples from today's price levels. Critics love to attack this. They say it assumes perfect conditions, ignores real-world friction, and treats XRP like it has no competition. Fair points. But here's what the critics usually ignore. XRP already has real utility today. It's not a promise like most Layer 1 tokens. Banks in Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East are already using it for remittances and treasury management. The infrastructure is built, the network is live. The only missing piece is scale. And that's exactly what a Trump-era escrow deal could unlock. Think about it like this. When the internet went mainstream in the 90s, the companies that provided the actual pipes and protocols saw valuations that seemed insane at the time. XRP is the protocol for value transfer in the same way TCP/IP became the protocol for data. The $22,000 figure isn't predicting a meme pump. It's modeling what happens when the entire global financial plumbing upgrades and XRP becomes the default settlement layer. And if the rumored escrow transfer gives the US government skin in the game, it removes the single biggest obstacle that's held XRP back for years: regulatory fear. Institutions don't invest billions when the rules can change overnight. Give them clarity and a strategic national interest angle, and the capital floodgates open. We're not talking retail FOMO here. We're talking sovereign wealth funds, pension giants, and central bank treasuries rebalancing portfolios. That's the kind of money that moves prices by orders of magnitude. Still, the study leaves one massive variable open. What if adoption doesn't hit those levels? What if CBDCs kill the need for private bridge assets? What if the escrow deal never materializes? Those are exactly the questions the next layer of this story has to answer, because even the most bullish models come with huge disclaimers. And right now, the entire crypto market is waiting to see which variables actually play out. The $22,000 rumor isn't just a number. It's a signal that someone with serious analytical firepower believes XRP's utility case could rewrite the entire wealth hierarchy. But belief alone doesn't move markets. Real adoption does. And that's where the political side of this equation becomes the ultimate wild card. Shall political power, regulation, and strategic assets? But politics is the hidden engine driving this entire story. Donald Trump's evolution on cryptocurrency has been one of the most watched shifts in modern politics. The man who once dismissed Bitcoin as a scam has spent the last 2 years positioning himself as the champion of American innovation in digital assets. His campaign promises included creating a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And since taking office again, those talks have moved from rhetoric to actual policy discussions inside the Treasury and White House. The rumored private dinner with Brad Garlinghouse and David Alderodi didn't happen in a vacuum. It was reportedly part of a broader outreach where Trump's inner circle is actively exploring how private sector crypto projects can support national financial goals. Sources familiar with the meeting say Trump was laser-focused on one question: how can XRP help America maintain dominance in a world where China and others are racing ahead with their own digital currency systems? The alleged escrow proposal fits neatly into that vision, moving 35 to 40% of Ripple's locked XRP under Treasury influence would give the United States direct exposure to a working, battle-tested payment protocol. Unlike Bitcoin, which is primarily a store of value, XRP is built for speed and actual daily settlement. That makes it attractive as a strategic tool rather than just another speculative asset. Think about the bigger picture for a moment. The United States carries over $36 trillion in national debt. Any mechanism that could generate non-tax revenue or strengthen the dollar's role in global trade is being studied seriously right now. If XRP becomes a bridge asset for even a fraction of the $150 trillion annual cross-border market, the economic ripple effects could help stabilize fiscal pressures without raising taxes or printing more money. Yet this isn't just about economics. It's about geopolitical leverage. SWIFT, the current backbone of international payments, has been weaponized in recent years through sanctions. A faster, more neutral alternative backed by American-aligned technology could quietly restore U.S. influence while appearing decentralized enough to avoid immediate backlash from other nations. Critics are already raising red flags, and they deserve to be heard. Some analysts argue this kind of government-private partnership risks turning XRP into a de facto tool of U.S. foreign policy, potentially undermining its original vision of borderless money. Others point to Ripple's history of regulatory battles and question whether any administration should be aligning so closely with one company. The counter-argument is equally compelling. Ripple has already won key court victories clarifying that XRP itself is not a security. The company has spent years building real partnerships with banks worldwide. If the US government wants to lead in digital finance without building everything from scratch, partnering with proven infrastructure makes strategic sense. Trump's team reportedly sees XRP not as a replacement for the dollar, but as a complementary layer that keeps the dollar at the center of the new system. By giving the Treasury oversight on a portion of the escrow, the deal could create a built-in alignment where national interests and network growth move together. This is where the $22,000 valuation models gain even more credibility in certain circles. If sovereign-level adoption kicks in, backed by regulatory certainty, the demand for XRP as a reserve and settlement asset could dwarf anything seen in crypto history. Pension funds, central banks, and multinational corporations would no longer treat it as high-risk speculation. Still, nothing in Washington moves without opposition. Lobbying accusations are flying. Some voices in Congress are already questioning whether this represents smart policy or crony capitalism. The debate is heating up behind the scenes, and how it resolves could determine whether the escrow transfer ever sees the light of day. One thing is certain, though, the regulatory overhang that has haunted XRP for years would evaporate almost overnight under this kind of high-level alignment. Institutions that have been sitting on the sidelines would finally have the green light they've been waiting for. And that single shift, from uncertainty to strategic endorsement, is what could separate today's price from the multi-thousand-dollar projections analysts are quietly modeling. The question everyone is asking now is whether this political momentum is enough to overcome the very real practical and ethical concerns that still remain, because even the most powerful alliances face limits when reality checks in, and those reality checks are